Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I have something absolutely fantastic to show you. This is one of the most interesting and inventive things that Blizzard have done in all of Legion. Gameplay-wise, it's the complete opposite of the mind-numbingly boring gameplay that we saw recently with the Broken Shore, and it's also their best use of time travel as a mechanic. This actually feels like it's a result of genuine care and game design effort, rather than another repeat of the same old thing that we've seen for years. Now, this is going to be free from spoilers and free from the ending. It's only going to cover the premise, and I will do as much as I can to, not, talk about all the mechanics. I'll only really talk about what I need to talk about to get my point across, and really this is a more mechanically oriented feature anyway, so you are pretty safe from lower spoilers if that's what you care about. So, the Deaths of Chromie scenario is a new piece of content in 7.2.5. I, like many, assumed it was just your normal kind of narrative questline. Dead easy, no thought put in on the part of the player, something focused on giving us a few new lore snippets and really little else. What we instead have is something that is absolute leagues above that. Now, this isn't a spoiler, but the basic premise of the scenario is that Chromie has seen her death. Again, just that this time it's not the death she knows she's supposed to have, and instead someone is meddling with events and the timelines to get her killed sooner. So we teleport to Wormer's Temple and, well, things don't really go that well. We then enter the actual death of Chromie scenario. After talking to some NPCs, we identify that something is up in each of the dragon shrines. We then have 15 minutes to solve the problems at each of the dragon shrines to save Chromie from her fate. Now, most of the dragon shrines only have hints as to what to do. You need to work out the problems, each one of them for yourself. So eventually you'll solve your first dragon shrine. And then upon doing that, you return to Wormrest, and you then find that a portal's opened. A portal to another place where Chromie is about to die. And that is an additional threat. So yeah, it turns out you actually have 15 minutes to prevent her death 8 times. Now, you'll probably think, along the lines of oh shit, and then your time will run out and you'll be back in Bellular and you saved her for maybe 1 or 2 threats. Well, the scenario is designed around replayability, but unlike the mage towers, the real weapon here is information, not your item level. Each time you go into the scenario, you learn a little bit more about how things work, and that will allow you to advance further in the time limit on your next attempt. The emphasis here is on problem solving, it's on thought, it's not just on damage, and in fact they normalize you all to item level 1000, so your item level doesn't even matter that much. Almost all of the non-raid and dungeon content in World of Warcraft can be done with your brain turned off, but this actually requires you to make decisions, learn new information, and really apply that to your next attempt. But that's not everything, so while you go through the scenario, you'll come across the Sands of Time. This is an item. Using these will present you with a choice between 2 different rewards. Now, these can range, and they're actually really cool. They can give you bonus time in the timer, allowing you to stay there for more than 15 minutes. They can give you buffs, bonus reputation with Chromie, and I'll cover the rep in a little bit of time, or really powerful items that can be used to skip parts of each challenge. For an example, there's one which just gives you a key to a door in Stratholme. As it turns out, that really circumvents much of the threat. And then there's also bronze dragon allies who you can get out of the chests who will basically clear out a dragon shrine for you. Now, there's often a clear-cut choice, but sometimes it can go either way. These can be found on boss mobs, they can drop from regular mobs, or they can be found inside chests. So, going back to the information thing, knowing where chests can spawn is a really important part of getting better at this scenario. This is a great little gameplay loop that happens on top of the stuff that you're already doing. Having to consistently make these decisions on a regular basis means that you're thinking on your feet and you're modifying your strategy to what you actually get. Now, I mentioned reputation, so Chromie actually has talents, and you'll earn access to more of them as your reputation with her increases. Now, the latter talents do take days to unlock, so yeah, the players who are struggling will get a helping hand, but they certainly will not be the people who are clearing this first. Now, so far I've noticed that with a little bit of luck with the drops, you actually can complete this on day 1 for sure. Past just knowing what to do, we then have the topic of optimizing. Blizzard have actually designed the elements of this scenario and I love this, so the players who actually think about what's going on and thinking about the tasks that the game throws at you, those people will be able to figure out faster ways of doing them. So one of the 4 extra scenarios takes place in the Culling of Stratholme dungeon, and involves quite a bit of running around and talking to NPCs, basically fetch quests. But you notice, well, the fetch quests are telling you to pick up items from vendors, but when you look at the vendors, you see, well, you don't need to be on the quest to buy the item. And then you notice that all of the vendors in the city are active from the very start. So instead of accepting the quest, running to the vendors, returning to the quest and going back and forth and all of that stuff, you can just do all of your vendoring at once. And that is, I think, brilliant for a few different reasons. First, it's rewarding people who problem solve, which is, pretty important. And second, and most importantly, it's a brilliant use of the time travel mechanic that actually impacts gameplay. Time travel media always plays in the idea of having access to more information than you should, allowing you to, for an example, bet on a sports match because you know who the winner will be because you've time traveled. Well, this situation is kind of like that, and it feels really empowering to realize all of these things by yourself. I really think that this scenario is an example of something that you should do blind, though, and it is a great case against, at times, sites like, say, Wowhead. As much as I love them, of course, it is true that for things like this, much of the fun is in the discovery. It's like playing an older Zelda game and working out the dungeons for yourself, or playing Dark Souls and discovering every new enemy attack pattern, every new shortcut, all by yourself. Reading up on those things in a strategy guide really robs you of the intended gameplay experience, and much of the point of even bothering with those games. Now, that said, there's stuff like, say, gearing efficiently, telling people to get their 26th artifact knowledge rank immediately, things like that, where the game does a terrible job of telling you what to do. Well, obviously that's the best place for guides, but I guess there's just little bits of content like this where it's good to go in blind. I also think that sometimes it's a mark of something being really well designed and fun if you never want to look up a guide for it. I suppose what I really like about this scenario is that it's an example of a simple idea that is executed very well, with basically nothing compromising its final design. In short, it knows what it is, and it focuses in doing that really well by playing on how the time travel mechanic breaks the law of information conservation, and that is really cool. And this feels like one of the game designers just had a cool idea and was given the freedom to execute it. When you look at how just transparently uncreative and boring and retention-driven so much of their decision-making is with stuff like Broken Shore, it's kind of amazing to see something like this even make it into the game. Now, for most people, this is going to result in a few hours of entertainment, and that's good quality entertainment when you are, you're playing a game, you're actually engaged in the fun mechanics rather than just doing the same thing over and over again for the chance of a legendary. This actually competes with non-MMO games as far as the moment-to-moment quality of the experience. And it often seems like it's really hard to innovate with a theme park MMO, and while I think World of Warcraft does need to innovate on the core of what that is, right now the Deaths of Chromie is a brilliant new ride in that theme park. One I think that is very much worth playing for yourself. And it kind of reminds me as well as the whole end sequence in Doctor Strange, which is something that I appreciate. So overall, I encourage Blizzard to keep on innovating with ideas like this. If they are able to apply the same level of creativity to aspects of the open world, then I think World of Warcraft will end up in a brilliant state indeed. But certainly, whenever someone in the team has an idea like this, the more that they get the thumbs up to just go and execute on it, I think the better, because while the core MMO gameplay loop might be whatever it is, it's the little gems like this that often just make you want to log in and actually play the game. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.